Well, hello there. It's another day. I'm Jim Harrington.
And I am Bill Knight. Well, happy Friday as we get ready for the weekend. Boy, there's a lot of flack over Jimmy Kimmel. You know, that's almost a distraction. His ratings were in the toilet, and, you know, they're blaming Disney now. It's funny how the entitled people on the left, spoiled, rotten people, they don't get their way, so now it's Disney's fault, and Disney is woke as woke can be.
Well, and yeah, you know, Disney, yes, but I hear more people blaming Trump. They're calling it. Well, here's Brian Stelter. Okay,
yeah.
You know who he is.
Yeah,
the potato head guy from CNN.
Yes. Yeah.
He was on saying that America is a less free country.
ABC. We know one of them, Nexstar, which has about 24 stations with the ABC logo and all the ABC programming. Nexstar publicly announced that they were going to drop Kimmel's show indefinitely. Within a matter of minutes, we heard from Disney that the show was being pulled altogether. That suggests to me that other station owners were probably also getting scared. Other station owners were probably also coming up with backup plans not to air Kimmel's show. But even though we're talking about comedy, this is so serious, Aaron. Yeah. America is a less free place if late-night comedians cannot do and say what they want. Of course, they can be tuned out. People can change the channel. That's how we vote. That's how we have our say in America. But this really does have a chilling effect across the American media. And it's not just me saying it. We've heard from the group FIRE in the past few minutes, the free speech group FIRE, saying, quote, the government pressured ABC and ABC caved. Quote, we cannot be a country where late-night talk show hosts serve at the pleasure of the president, but until institutions grow a backbone and learn to resist government pressure, that is the country we are. And just one more note, Aaron, I've heard from Brendan Carr in the past few minutes. He's very pleased about Nexstar deciding to preempt the show. He has not officially reacted to ABC's decision yet, but when I told him about ABC's decision to go ahead and basically this is a cancellation unless the show ever comes back, he did send me a GIF. He sent me a celebratory meme as his reaction, Aaron.
Unbelievable. This guy is the definition of the word fathead. Well, that's two words, actually, isn't it? But he is a fathead. And he has no problem, Bill, saying, the government pressured Nexstar into canceling Jimmy Kimmel.
Well, back to my original point. You know, the propaganda arm of the government of the left of the Democrats are saying Trump actually did it, which is what he's saying. Trump told Disney to cancel, so they did, and now they're out saying screw Disney and cancel Disney. They forget that Disney is the only place on earth where you can go and be escorted around the park by a little princess that has a mustache, you know, and a dress and the little golden slippers. And I'm like, I'm serious. You know, they've taken.
That's because it's a small world, after all.
Yeah, and that's the real world according to the woke, and they want you to know that. We've taken people that are touched in life and entitled them and propped them up. And I guess there are people on the left that you might call normal in normal life, but they just are disgusted with themselves. And so them being disgusted with themselves, they cast their sins or whatever it is that they're guilty of on everybody. And I'm sitting here going, I'm sick and tired of it. So it wasn't Trump's fault. Kimmel's fault was 25 to 54, the coveted holy grail of demographics. All right. He's tanked in. His contract expires next year in November to begin with. So the suspension and it was Kimmel that canceled himself. He opened his mouth about something he shouldn't have opened, and it was a lie to begin with, and it was, you know, it could cost licenses. Kimmel is the result of his own firing. Now, I do have a weird theory on this because they're playing this up. And if I were Kimmel, I'm just saying, you know, it just seems that this cancel culture society has gotten radical where they're canceling people that they don't like or they're looking for a martyr. I'd hate to say it, Jimmy, but you could be the martyr that they might look for to sit there and, you know, promote a narrative. I'd be careful.
They were worried about Nexstar. Apparently, Nexstar is in negotiations for the sale of some stations, from what I understand. And they said that it was Trump that actually caused the firing of Jimmy Kimmel. But Nexstar looked at their books, okay, and they probably saw. Wait a second, or is it ABC that's in negotiations for one of the
ABC.
players? If ABC's in negotiations for sale, and they've got a losing proposition like the Jimmy Kimmel show, and yes, it was not just losing a few bucks, it was losing millions of dollars in revenue constantly. His viewership was in the tank. He may have had a vocal and cheering group of loyalists who supported his program, but overall, he was not watched. The ratings had gone down the tubes over the last couple of years. Not that they were any good in the first place. So they did a business move. They looked at their product and they said, okay, we're selling this and we want to get as much money as possible for ABC. And if we take out the Jimmy Kimmel element, which is a big money loss, it increases our bottom line and makes us more attractive to buyers. It was a business decision. Now, I'm not saying they were going to make the move when they made the move. I think that Jimmy Kimmel moved that forward when he made that dumb remark. Somebody said, wait a second, we're losing money on that show anyway. We weren't going to renew him next year when his contract comes up. Let's just move that forward, yank him right now.
He put their licenses, not just the ABC licenses, but Nexstar and another company's licenses in jeopardy because he was telling lies.
Yeah.
Oh, the truth hurts. It was not truth. It was a lie. They haven't affected Google yet, and they are trying to go out and change history, but that history is too fresh in everybody's mind. They know what's going on. That would have cost them their licenses. And when you lose a license, good luck getting it back.
By the way,
you won't.
Nexstar owns about 265 affiliates. And Sinclair, the other major player, has about 250 affiliates.
How many major markets are there in the United States? Major markets.
Well, maybe 10, 15 major markets, 20.
All right.
Yeah.
We'll put the secondaries in there. And now what I would call a secondary, because of what they call the total survey area, is different from radio to TV. Major markets are different. So, in your top 50 U.S. cities, these companies have stations that cover all of them. And because of duplicity, where you can own more than one license now in a market, you see this all the time. 2830 News. Well, that used to be two different independently owned stations, but now it's one company, and they've sucked the signals together to cover more area. They lose those licenses. They lose both, and they go away. They go away, and that's it.
They like on the left to say it was the administration and Trump, but from what I ascertain is that it was that these companies, Nexstar and Sinclair, got an overload of feedback from their viewers. The viewers saw the remarks that were made, and by the way, the viewers are between New York and L.A. They are the midsection of our country. They are the mainstream, all-American towns in America who are what
breadbasket.
Yep, and those people called and said they took offense to the remarks that were made by this guy, and Nexstar did exactly what a responsible operation should do. They said, okay, we've gotten a ton of these responses. Our audience reacted terribly to the Kimmel show tonight. We're yanking it. And Sinclair did the same thing. They did the responsible thing. These people think, Bill, I'm talking about Kimmel. I'm talking about all of his supporters. I'm talking about the Brian Stelters who were saying it was a move on the part of the administration. No, these people think that they're entitled to have a job. They think that they can go out and do just about. these guys were given something on a platform on a platter when they got the job. When Kimmel got the job, he was a comedian, and boy, this was a great opportunity. And all of a sudden, these people started to fawn all over him because, initially, he did comedy on that show. He stayed away from politics. But about 6 or 7 years into the show, and he was on for a lot of years, 6 or 7 years into the show, he decided, I'm going to get political. I don't like this administration. I don't like the right. And he started to become somewhat political. But that grew into, it was a total political rant. His song and dance, his act was politics. And, it wasn't funny. I don't ever remember seeing him do, and I can disagree with somebody, and if they say something funny, I can still laugh. I get the joke, but he just wasn't funny. He was nasty, and there's a difference. The left doesn't seem to realize when they're being funny or being nasty. And
they don't care. They don't care. They like it. And you've got this entitled bunch of people in our society. They are spoiled brats, and they will sit there and attack their own mother if they don't get their way. They don't care.
Yeah.
And we have fostered that. We've bred that. A lot of the sickness in our society, the perversions, everything, you can trace back to, well, a lot of it comes out of Hollywood in what they did. And you know what? Talking about blame, going back to Disney with some of the mind glop that they put in there with some of the old cartoons and newer stuff and everything else they've done. Mm-hmm. They cloak themselves in all these nice, heart-touching little dog stories, Old Yeller and whatever. But then behind the scenes, they incorporated things. I'm trying to think of, I'm thinking of one, an iconic one, Betty Boop. Everyone talks about Betty Boop.
Yeah.
But in the early days, her love interest was a dog, and we'll just leave it at that. I mean,
they have been into perversion,
right,
in that community since the beginning of the motion picture industry. I'm talking about the silent era. Do you know that most people don't realize this, but there was, as the movie industry grew in the silent era, they started to become almost pornographic, definitely pornographic for its time. They, up into the early 30s, they were showing as much as they could show on camera and get away with it. Women in loose outfits, and they were really pushing the limits, the boundaries. Then the Hays Commission came along. The Hays Commission was a censor, and that was a result, by the way. I don't know whether you ever heard this story before. There was a trial, the Fatty Arbuckle trial. It was a murder trial. He actually was found not guilty, but so much information came out about Hollywood corruption and perversion that the country just did a 180 on Hollywood for a while. Mm-hmm. So Hollywood figured to defend itself, they would come out with the Hays Commission. They would have a policing operation that made sure that they stayed within a certain parameter. They were always on the straight and narrow, if you know what I mean. Well, it kind of worked. Movies like It Happened One Night with Clark Gable and Claudette Colbert. They were a love interest. That was the scene, if you remember, black and white scene. You might have seen pictures where she raises her leg. They're hitchhiking, and she wants to stop a car, and she raises her skirt above her knee. And that was as far as it would go because the Hays Commission said, that's enough. And when they were sleeping in the motel together in that movie, separate beds, exactly right, with, if I remember correctly, a curtain between them, like a blanket between, a sheet.
But
go ahead.
The filth and disgust of Hollywood back into the black and white and even pre-sound era was probably as grotesque, even more so, believe it or not, than what we call vulgar pornography today. They did it back then. Hollywood has been corrupt from day one. As soon as somebody invented a camera, a pervert got in charge of it and had a field day. And
they will tell you that many of the technological advances in Hollywood started in the Valley. And the Valley is where most of the pornography comes from. They were always pushing the boundaries in that area to make things look as realistic as possible, to give people that rush when they were watching the pornography. Hollywood has got a lot of perversion right now. And by the way, I won't mention any names because I can't give you I can't. It would be stupid. But I can tell you this. You can probably do a search online, but there are people that you may know and love in Hollywood. Oh, they're such a good actor. What a nice guy. They're not. They're not the people they sell themselves. You have to remember about Hollywood that they're actors. And what does an actor do? An actor pretends to be something he's not or she's not. If they want to sell you on being an all-American family person, oh, yes, and you find out they're a pedophile, that's probably, it shouldn't come as a shock to you. But, before I forget, and I'm kind of getting off on a rant here about Hollywood, but it's appropriate because they are the ones who are talking about freedom of speech, and the administration is coming down on this guy, poor Jimmy Kimmel. By the way, he's worth millions from that show. He's the luckiest guy in the world to have ever gotten that show, and very lucky to have hung on to it. Brian Stelter, you'll remember, you just heard him complaining about we're seeing the death of free speech in our country. He just basically said that in the first piece of audio I played for you. But I want to play something he said a couple of years ago. When I think it was when Tucker Carlson was laid off over at Fox. Whole different Brian Stelter.
It's as predictable as the sunrise. Democrats win elections, and then Republicans say they are being silenced. But while some cry cancel culture, let me suggest a different way to think about this. A harm reduction model. This harm happens all over the place. In the words of a recently fired Fox News editor, news consumers are both overfed and malnourished at the same time, gorging on empty informational calories, indulging their sugar fixes of self-affirming half-truths and even outright lies. It's impossible to make all those lies go away, but they can be reduced. All right? Harm reduction. But instead we get this over on Newsmax. Look at this. Biden's plan to destroy America. It looks like some crazy comic book movie or something, or some action hero movie. That's what we get on Newsmax. Here's what we get on Fox. Tucker Carlson declaring that unity for Dems means locking up their opponents. And, quote, you can now be arrested for saying the wrong thing. What? And the government is at war with its own people. What? This apocalyptic stuff is day in, day out on these channels. It is part of a radicalization pipeline that pits neighbors against neighbor and lets fear overpower courage. And it poisons American politics. And most of the criticism of Fox News is not aimed at shutting it down, which will never happen anyway. It's about making Fox better. This is not ultimately about freedom of speech. It's about freedom of reach.
This guy's freedom of reach. This guy is can't be taken seriously. You cannot take that clown seriously. You heard him in the first piece of audio I played today. You heard him talking about the end of free speech as we know it, meaning when we fire Jimmy Kimmel, when he gets relieved for cause by a business because of a business decision. That's what it was. That's the end of free speech. But when a conservative gets canned, when a conservative is escorted from the building, well, that's cutting back on freedom of reach. If you're lying and speaking your vile, we're going to cut back on the ability to reach as many people as you reach. Of course, in Tucker Carlson's case, he went over to X and reached more people. He reached more people. I don't listen as often as I should. I like Tucker, but his numbers are phenomenal. He has a real loyal following in the millions. He didn't have that when he was over at Fox. So, but they have no shame, Bill. They have no shame. I'm talking about the Brian Stelters of the world and the liberals. Anyway, we should maybe take a pause for the cause.
Yeah, take a pause, and then I'll throw something at you and get your opinion.
Okay. we'll remind you to like and share our show if you would. Like and share it. Also, if you want to contact us, it's mail@jimandbill.com, and we'll be back.
Wake up on the right side with Right Side Coffee.
Available at rightsideshop.com.
So I'm not so sure that Tyler Robinson didn't think everything totally through, because apparently he turned himself in to, negotiate, a soft surrender.
It's funny you should say that, Bill. I have the police officer.
He didn't want to be shot.
Yeah. we can talk
but
about...
there's a problem with that, and I'll tell you what it is in a minute, unless you have it right there.
He was fearful of a SWAT team hit on his house, or he was fearful of being shot by law enforcement. So part of the negotiation and getting him to bring himself in was that we would treat it as delicate and as soft as possible to make him feel comfortable to where he would show up at my office, and that's exactly what happened.
What did he ask for? Can I ask?
He basically for a peaceful, gentle, comfortable transition for him to come out.
But there's one problem with that. You see, Utah is one of 5 states that offers death by firing squad.
Oh, that's not terribly gentle.
No. So what he's fearful of, that he committed a heinous crime, he could actually get in the end. I wouldn't blindfold him. I'd let him see, what's going on, because, if I had done what he had done, I would expect that's what would happen. So,
I have a question for you.
What?
Should his execution be televised?
Yes, because although now that's a weird one, because in the fact that I say yes, you need to understand that there are consequences, but there is an entitled radical group out there. Hell, what's her name, Kelly Ayotte in New Hampshire, the governor. Somebody was arrested for plotting to kill her with a bomb, and somebody on the radical left. Mm-hmm. This is going on all over the place, and they would just look at that maybe as a rally cry, but they're not going to soften up their touch anyway.
You know why I asked that question, Bill?
Why?
Because he thought it was appropriate that the world see Charlie Kirk die. He wanted to do it while there were cameras rolling and thousands of people looking at Charlie Kirk.
Well, and let's back this bus up. The reason that he thought it was appropriate, and I pointed this out to you in a text that I read from my son, who was very concerned about it. He said, today's youth, he's 23, that he goes, this is bad because they believe the only way to get attention is for, to kill somebody for all to see, public executions like that. And this has been taught, because he even said, this is what has been taught in schools, that sometimes you have to go public and get violent. And this is what they're teaching in academia today. This is from those radical, drugged out hippies, and I hate to say that, but just call it what it is, that had some weird values from the 60s, and they're in power today.
Yeah, well...
or they've been teaching our youth and indoctrinating. But again, like we just said with Disney, there is a subculture. And this subculture, and maybe it has to do with people that sometimes, I've always heard it said, people that are talented and gifted have also got voices and demons in their mind, and I'm just saying.
I still have my doubts about the whole shooting story that we're being told.
It doesn't all make sense.
It doesn't make sense to me. And now the government seems to be quite satisfied, and they are trying to sell everybody on the idea, that we got the only guy that really is the problem here. He's in custody, and it's over.
Well,
maybe Bill, maybe it's because I grew up in a time when they tried to do the same thing about Lee Harvey Oswald. We were told it's Sirhan. We got the one shooter. That's it.
Well, if we know that this guy was the shooter or one of the shooters, We got him. I don't think we can let anything else cloud the fact that we got him, and we need to, dish out quick, harsh punishment before, all of a sudden it just fades into the woodwork because we're chasing all the other strings. We can still chase all the other the roots to this big tree trunk, but we got one of the main branches here. Let's take care of it, and it'll serve. It does serve as a signal of justice.
Jasmine Crockett, of course, she's this. I'm sorry, folks. There are some people who should be escorted from the Capitol. She's one of them because it's not that she's a leftist. There are a lot of leftists. They've always had people of opposing points of view in the Capitol, but she is intentionally corrupt, in my opinion, in the Capitol. She uses her position as a platform to sow confusion and dissent in government, in my opinion. Yesterday, she was in the House of Representatives, and she wanted to make a point. And I'll let her do it. And then I want you to hear how Marjorie Taylor Greene took care of her.
Objection attended. I recognize Ms. Crockett for unanimous consent.
Yes, Mr. Chair, since I wasn't allowed equal time to debate, I have a UC. It is from, it looks like Yahoo News. It says, Charlie Kirk suspect's grandma says family is all MAGA.
Without objection, so ordered. Chair recognizes Ms. Greene from Georgia.
Mr. Chair, remember I have a UC as well.
We'll recognize you next time. Chair, Ms. Greene, it's your 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I can assure you that the 22-year-old man, Tyler Robinson, that murdered Charlie Kirk is not MAGA. His family may be Republican, but all of the evidence that is being presented proves that he is a far leftist, very much integrated in online groups that are linked to Antifa. He was in a relationship with a biological male, so-called furry, whatever that is transitioning to be a fake woman. He was not MAGA, not one bit. That is a complete lie, and it's an insult to every single Republican and person that identifies with those type of politics. We will not tolerate it, and that is the exact type of language that is getting many of us death threats day after day, and led to shootings on the baseball field where Steve Scalise was shot. This is what led to President Trump nearly being assassinated this past summer. This is what has led to Charlie Kirk being assassinated. And so I just want to give a warning there. We're not going to tolerate that anymore. Mr. Something else we're not going to tolerate is crime.
Yep. And then she goes on, but because she still had time. But the thing is true. They are trying to make it. They're trying to make it sound like either the guy was a MAGA. He was never. This kid is not a MAGA. This kid is a leftist, and he is a proud leftist. He moved in, and I'm not saying that there aren't people on the right who have different sexual proclivities. That's okay. But this guy wore a lifestyle with like a badge, and he was just not what the Jasmine Crockett says he was. He was not MAGA. MAGA people are God, country, apple pie, period. And the flag, definitely the flag. And this kid, he disrespected the flag. We in this country, and especially people in that MAGA movement that everybody talks about like it's a big bad thing, which, by the way, they don't issue cards. You will, if you identify as somebody who supports the Make America Great Again movement, they don't hand you a card, and you don't have a hand stamp or something that says, I'm MAGA. It's just that you believe in traditional conservative values. That's all. But they try to make it out like it's a fascist movement where we're goose-stepping along with President Trump, and that's just nonsense. I want to read to you a few people who have been targeted by the left for firing. Gina Carano, she was fired from The Mandalorian for, quote, wrong thing. That was a TV show. Megyn Kelly was fired by NBC for Halloween costume commentary. Dave Chappelle was targeted by Netflix employees for transphobia. Dave Chappelle, he had amazing numbers, huge audience, made a lot of money, but he was targeted by the left because of wrong thing. Joe Rogan, smeared and nearly canceled over COVID discussions. Tucker Carlson was taken off Fox News after advertiser pressure. I think it was from the pharmaceutical companies, if I remember correctly. The social platform Parler, remember that? Parler was wiped off the internet by Apple, Google, and Amazon, all at the time run by people of the left. J.K. Rowling, blacklisted for defending women's rights. Something as simple as defending women's rights, like women should play tennis in women's tennis, and women should swim in women's swimming, right? But she was blacklisted. Mike Lindell was banned from Twitter, and retailers pulled their support of his business because he supported Donald Trump. I mean, it goes on and on and on. Those are just a few that, off the top of my head, are examples of how the left has used their power to screw the people on the right. And it's okay, Bill. It's okay when they do it to us. But when there's accountability from us to them, oh, well, that's a violation of our rights and free speech.
Yeah.
Which, they say, they call us cancel culture. I would submit this is accountability culture that we're living in right now. They're paying for what they've done to us. It's coming back to bite them in the gluteus maximus.
But they're going to fight. They're going to scream. They're going to scratch and claw all the way. But they've got elements out there doing evil things. Do you hear this story out of Texas? Apparently a congressional staffer died after catching on fire in her home.
What was that all about?
Well, see, I don't know. I read through. I mean, her mother came in and found her, but they put out the fire in the kitchen, and they say that. But and so they're investigating because, now someone on the left will go, well, she was stupid and she wanted to commit suicide.
No.
Her dying words were, I don't want to die.
Right.
And they can't find any evidence as to what happened. I mean, it could have been something as simple as she had a gas stove. Somebody had turned some gas on, but that would have been an explosion. But somehow her body got engulfed in flames. And this happened, I think, yesterday, developing story.
A lot of the clothes that we wear are amazingly flammable. We get these deals on clothes from China. Well, it's made in China. Well, it's because of cheap labor. It's also probably because of cheap material too. I mean, I sometimes you buy.
Well, it's all got plastics and chemicals in it.
That's exactly right, Bill.
Combustibles.
Bill, I'm not going to mention the brand because they may get ticked off, and we do reach a quite sizable audience around the world. But there's a product that I wear their T-shirts, and I was thinking about this yesterday. If you had told me there'd be a time in our world when we'd pay an extra $1 so that we could wear a T-shirt that has the brand name of the company that manufactures it on the shirt in big bold letters, looking like it was a promotional item, But we do that. We buy these
pay high dollars for it.
We do, Bill. It's more. It doesn't make sense. But some of these things, they'll say, well, much of our clothing is made in the USA, but they don't say all of their clothing is made in the USA. Like a lot of the T-shirts are made in Asia, in sweatshops, and they don't have the quality control.
We've gotten used to the cheap labor, and they were screwing us for a long time. They screwed their people in the labor department, and then they screwed us because our stuff going over there for sale, high tariffs. Their stuff coming over here, no tariffs. Now people are bitching, the prices are up. Well, number one, the tariff thing is real, but it's not affecting the prices, like they say now, there's something else going on with prices besides the tariff because, Trump has imposed them. Judges have stepped in. It's not enough time for everything. Dollar Tree. I was in Dollar Tree yesterday.
Right.
Which they used to be.
It's always fun to go into those types of. I think it's fun to go into those stores.
There was an art project I was doing something on, and I go in to get some stuff, and things. They've gone up from. Well, they went from $1 to $1.25. Now they did that during COVID. That had nothing to do with tariffs.
Right.
And then here, back after that, they were going up to $1.50 and $3 and $5. And now they're sitting there going, well, everything's $1.50. And I was sitting there going, boy, it's $1.50. It's really not a Dollar Tree anymore. And the girl laughed. She goes, oh, the prices are going up tomorrow. She said that yesterday. So today, the prices are going up. So they're going to be like a mandatory $1.75 or $2. Candy is going to go up to about $1.75. And I'm going, I can go to a grocery store and get candy cheaper. They're not in existence. I said, how is that brand going to work for you? Oh, well, you know how we have this symbol of a tree?
Yeah.
With money on it? Well, we're going with the money grows on trees when you go to Dollar Tree. And I'm going like, stupid. Why don't you just do this? Go buy some security tape saying close, stay out, and lock your doors and go out of business because you've lost, maybe there's no room for a dollar store anymore, but...
Well, I heard somebody say, well, it's still a dollar store. We're raising our stuff from $1 to $2, but we're doing it in dollar increments so that it's the dollar store. Everything goes up $1 and, or goes down $1. It's like...
it never goes down.
That's true.
No. But, and they're doing that, and, I get it. The things that if you buy something at a Dollar Tree, you don't expect it to last forever. You're lucky if it lasts a day. It's $1. It was made in China for a penny, probably a half a penny. And what do you expect for that investment? And,
what they should have called the thing is the savings store. I'm going to the savings store. The dollar store, I don't know. Savings, you can justify. Savings can be adjusted. Dollar store, I'm with you, Bill. It's like false advertising. Wait a second. $1? I'm here at the dollar store and I'm paying $2 for this? Well, wait. What happened to the dollar thing?
Or the dollar savings stores if they want to keep dollars in it.
That's true.
You know what? And we'll send you a bill for this marketing advice.
Yes, they won't do it, though.
No, they won't. Yeah, because, we're not entitled, Jim.
That's true. That's very true.
You're like me, old, fat, and white.
Yes.
So,
Well, speak for yourself. No, I'm just kidding.
All right.
If the shoe fits, wear it. I know. Hey, I wanted to say Trump was over in England. He did a press conference with Keir Starmer. I get my.
You get your.
It was Keir Starmer and President Trump. They were doing a press conference together, and some breaking news happened. I thought it was quite interesting about the Bagram Air Base. Listen.
They just went through the Afghanistan total disaster for no reason whatsoever. We're going to leave Afghanistan, but we're going to leave it with strength and dignity. And we're going to keep Bagram, the big air base, one of the biggest air bases in the world. We gave it to them for nothing. We're trying to get it back, by the way. Okay, that could be a little breaking news. We're trying to get it back because they need things from us. We want that base back. But one of the reasons we want the base is, as you know, it's an hour away from where China makes its nuclear weapons.
I think that's kind of neat. I think he has more leverage than a lot of people think about that because, what they don't need right now, I'm talking about the Taliban, is they don't need to get into any kind of a military confrontation with us while they're trying to, get their country back together again. And when he says they need stuff from us, he's probably talking about parts for the $89 billion worth of equipment Biden left behind.
Yeah, you didn't leave the spare parts behind. Could you send those two, please? And some ammunition for these things because we want to shoot you with them.
Yes.
And,
I'll never understand till the day I die how the administration, the Biden administration, thought it was a good idea to just pull out. No, don't worry about it. Just leave everything behind and get your stuff, get on the plane, and we're leaving. What about all that equipment? What about the the tanks and the trucks and the helicopters and all of, we left state-of-the-art scopes, night vision. We left it behind, stuff that was only used by us. It was such an irresponsible and, dare I say, treasonous retreat on the part of the previous administration.
I don't like to attack the previous administration much. We do. And, Biden he had no cognitive ability, and I'm not going to make fun of somebody that was mentally incapacitated. But I'm going to stop at that and say the party that let this, facade go on and take advantage of it, because in testimony, it came out that, they were really covering up the fact of what the decline was and how bad it was, that it got down to, who was making decisions on the pardons. Hunter was making. Hunter Biden on that.
While Trump was overseas, he was asked about his predecessor, the auto pen.
Is there any update on the auto pen?
Yeah, it's just gotten worse from their standpoint. The people that used it, and in particular one person, was never told by Biden to do it. Only spoke to Biden twice, and that was just talking about the weather, not talking about any order. And he was taking orders from people other than Joe Biden.
Biden's chief of staff, Jeff Zients, testified today. He said Biden's decision-making slowed down during his term. Decisions that took 3 meetings eventually required 4. Jill Biden ordered the chief of staff to change the president's schedule so he could sleep more. And Zients admitted that Hunter Biden was in meetings and directly involved in pardons. Why was he in meetings? And what pardons? All the drug dealers? All 4,000 of them? Was Hunter running the auto pen? We know Joe wasn't.
Amazing. Hunter.
Yeah, now here's a question. Now that we've identified Hunter as running the auto pen, and Biden was not cognitively in control of anything, and he also controls the nuclear football case there, the codes.
Right.
Did that mean Hunter had control of that too?
I'm afraid he was in charge of more stuff. I also think Jill would sit in during cabinet meetings and run the cabinet meeting for Joe while he sat there catatonic. I mean, Joe did. This is the amazing thing, folks.
He was symbolically there in comatose form, but he was there.
Yeah. We were watching from the sidelines, and for the entire 4 years, I thought, this guy's not with it. This guy, he's gone. The lights are on, but there's nobody home. And this is what I felt for 4 years. And now they're coming out like it's a surprise. Well, Joe really wasn't with it. We had other people handling this guy, Jeff Zients, who is, I guess, Joe's right-hand man. He told the Oversight Committee that essentially Joe was out of commission and most of the day-to-day operation was being handled by him. This is scary stuff, folks. Bill, this goes back to what we've talked about before. If that's the case, if he was out of commission and somebody else was issuing all these pardons and signing all of these executive actions, are they valid? Do they mean anything if he wasn't really, if the president really didn't sign the stuff, if he really didn't understand what was happening, does any of that stuff have any validity anymore?
Probably not. But when did it start? Because that, to me, that means that everything that happened from the point of not being cognitive anymore forward is void, null and void. What does that encompass? Treaties, anything that we've done, the orders that have been given.
I guess if it were me, I would think it goes right back to the very beginning. We have to remember he didn't do any of his campaign on the road, really. He did it from his basement. and everybody was trying to sell it as a new and 21st century way of getting out to the people. Joe's going to talk to you live on Zoom around the world or whatever he was using. And
well, this is like a movie plot to where, you've seen movies, now we hear from our leader on the big screen, and the leader's been dead, and it's just all, it's fake video.
Well, Bill, you're very much into technology. I am too. I'm impressed by a lot of the things that have come along. One of the things that's come along is they can mimic your voice now. They literally can make a program, listen to you, take samples of my voice, and then do independent lines in that voice. It'll sound like I said it, even though I didn't say it.
Technology that goes out to the public has been out years in advance. Case in point, what is now archaic are CDs. That came into prominence back in the 80s. I remember when that was,
right.
It came out and everyone said, the 80s, with the CDs replaces the Walkman. Well, it gave the record industry a whole new way to introduce old product and reintroduce it. You got to have it on a CD now. And I was talking to a guy and said, well, this is great. Oh, no. We've got computer chips the size of your pinky fingernail that can take hold the entire Beatles catalog. Well, now those chips can hold the entire contents of all the human knowledge in the world. But that is there. This thing of speech, that you have that's going on with that where you're using an AI and things like that. That was around in the 80s. They used to do the old Heathkit computers, and you could buy a module to build. It wasn't that big, and plug it in, and you could program it, and then you could type in a sentence, and it would sit there and read it back to you. So
but it wouldn't read it in your voice. It would read it in a voice.
But I'm saying my point is
the seed was back then.
The seed was back then, and we're talking that's 45 years ago. So you got to figure about 50 or 60 years ago.
I watched a movie yesterday. We got a break. I got to watch I watched a movie yesterday, 1990. It was shot in 1994 called Time Cop with Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Oh, great movie.
It was a great movie, yeah. And it had a lot of interesting special effects in it. I thought, boy, I forgot how sophisticated the effects were even back in the 90s, And they had the technology. The computers were bigger. They ran a little slower. But they had the knowledge.
To the point, we're sitting there again, but how does that go with, a Joe Biden or something like that and being on a video screen? Right now, you can go on the internet, Facebook. Oh, do you need a digital presenter? They have models that have posed, computer-generated models that are people that don't exist, and you pick a voice, you pick a presenter, you type in a script, and now you've got a presenter. And you can do that. You can have AI generate a script, and they can talk to you, and they can be interactive. Now, it took years to get this. So did they not have this? Obviously, they had this during the Biden administration. Could they have not sat there and said, okay, he's got a little bit of a slur here or that? They could program all that in.
And you know who had it first?
Who?
Probably the CIA.
Mm-hmm.
They probably had it before everybody else. I mean, they're the people who invented the internet. You're saying what? Yeah, it was called ARPANET, and it was a very top secret way of sending information around the world to the agents and their people in the field, and it was supposed to be unbreakable, and it got broken, and they figured, okay, it's too late, the cat's out of the bag, let's make this public, and the rest is history. Hey, I got to pause here. Like and share our show if you would. Like and share our program. Also, if you want to contact us, mail@jimandbill.com.
Wake up on the right side with Right Side Coffee.
Available at rightsideshop.com. It's interesting. You talked about CDs, and I was thinking when you were saying that, I was working at a radio station in Pittsburgh at the time, and they came in and they took all the turntables out and put in CD players. And this was back in like 84. And I thought, it's not going to get any better than this. This is about as technologically advanced as we ever need to get. It was a time, by the way, that when they came out, you had to slide the CD into like a case and then slip the case into the CD player.
And then dial in the cut number.
Yeah, and dial in the cut number, exactly. But I thought, whoa, that's amazing. And before you know it, a year or two later, every kid in the block had a CD player, and they were, using it like a Walkman. As a matter of fact, they actually made Walkman obsolete, But now we look back and we laugh because CD players are relics. We don't use those anymore. We use your cell phone and listen to music on, Pandora or whatever, or one of the other streaming apps. And people are, and I'm thinking to myself, it's going to change again. Mm-hmm. Something will come along again and change it. Well, for example, the music that Bill and I have created, the technology behind that didn't exist publicly 2 years ago, 3 years ago.
You're talking about our digital creations.
Our songs. Yeah, the songs that literally we wrote. We wrote the songs, but the performance was, we also produced the performance. We knew what we wanted it to sound like, but the idea of putting it all together, technologically was science. That was technology.
But that's out there right now. I can sit there and go to American Musical, which is a company musicians would know it. It's where if you don't have any money, you can sit there and buy something on a time basis with no credit check and get all your equipment. You can get good studio stuff that way too. But either way, they have programmable software and instruments to where I don't really play the keyboards. Well, all you got to know is how to put in a few notes in there, and you pick a rhythm, a pattern, or you program one in. Pretty soon, you've got a whole orchestra. You've got a band playing.
Oh, sure.
And you can sculpt the beat. You can do that with software.
Well, look what they can do with artists nowadays. Singers. And there was a funny TV commercial out a few years ago which made fun of it. But literally, you can have an artist who sings flat all the time.
Auto-tune, yeah.
Oh, and if you hear them if you are in the studio where they're recording them, if you're actually in the same room where they're singing, it's terrible.
Jim, there's software right now. I can sample your voice.
But you go into the control room, and the engineer has auto-tune, and he's adjusting it so you sound like you're a well-trained Juilliard singer. You are amazing. And that's what they can do. They sing it on. Jim, they have it on stage now, Bill. They can go on stage.
Yeah, they do. And there's not a guy back there tweaking it up and down. It does it automatically.
Yeah.
I was just going to say, I could sample your voice right now, throw it into a computer, and 15 minutes later, I'd say, here, Jim, do you remember singing this song? There you are right there. And it will be perfectly produced, on key, to the mark. You don't need Adele to sing your song anymore. You've got, anybody, any lady listening could be better than Adele.
I know a guy who does weather reports. God bless him. He is a terrific talent, and I'm not going to mention his name, but he still works his tail off today, and he produces weather reports and then syndicates them to TV stations around the country. He's a meteorologist. He's good. Been doing it for years, but he got sick. He got cancer, and it was going to affect his voice. So he figured out a way to create a program that would mimic his voice in real time in his voice. So he still does the reports from what I understand. He still does the reports, but he does it using a computer, meaning when he's talking, you see his lips move, you see his actions, you hear his voice as he used to sound, not as he would sound today, because he's struggling now because he's fighting cancer. But you don't see it. He's still able to work. He's still able to carry off a nightly, weather report and still be charming and look good on camera. But the computer is assisting his voice. That's what I'm saying. That's the amazing thing about computers nowadays. They've gone from having to programming these things and then waiting for them to render the product.
No.
Now they do it instantaneously. Instantaneously. Yeah. It's amazing. Anyway, before I wrap this up, I wanted to mention that Trump was in that press conference, in England. We talked about it earlier. And he talked about illegal immigration. And, Trump doesn't waste it. He makes suggestions. Sometimes they're not really welcome, I would think, but he throws them out there anyway. He talked about, we have illegal immigration in the U.S., and I just sent in the military, and they could do it here, too.
Think about it, and I think your situation is very similar. You have people coming in, and I told the Prime Minister I would stop it, and it doesn't matter if you call out the military, it doesn't matter what means you use, but it's going to destroys countries from within. And we're actually now removing a lot of the people that came into our country. It's a very hard chore. We were given a very, very bad hand. Millions of people came in from prisons and mental institutions. We have to remove them. And we are removing them. We have no choice. And I feel very strongly about it. Thank you very much.
Jack, let me just deal with the question of returns, because this is obviously an issue we're taking incredibly seriously. We've struck a number of deals.
And he goes on rambling. And Keir Starmer, it kind of blindsided him. But Trump, one of the things I love about the guy is he doesn't pull punches.
Right.
He's there. It's a press conference. He's the most open president, I think, in our history. And if you don't like the answer, well, tough. You asked a question while I'm standing here in England about borders and how I take care of them and what I would do about if I was. And he throws out, if I were you guys, I'd have the military take care of it. And, of course, Starmer is not Trump. Well, I just want to say that, actually, he's not going to do what Trump did. You kidding me? I mean, I'm sure Starmer, when Trump left for the airport, Starmer went into his room, poured himself a brandy, and pulled his tie loose like, oh, man, what a couple of days. Anyway, so I think that over the course of the next few days, we're going to be seeing some weird things happening. They're going to try to pin the Jimmy Kimmel thing, try to make it into a big, cause celeb. It's not a cause celeb. He was fired because he wasn't getting ratings. He wasn't funny, and they have better things to put on that show. Can you imagine? Do you remember, by the way, when they fired Jay Leno? Now, people forget about this, but NBC didn't renew Jay Leno. Jay Leno had great numbers. He was well-liked, but somewhere along the line, somebody at NBC said, no, we need something different in that time slot now, so let's get rid of Jay Leno and find somebody else. Well, and that's what they did. They put in Fallon. And, it was like...
That was a mistake, by the way, putting in Fallon, because Fallon fell into that category, and maybe NBC was going there. They thought, this is a platform for propaganda. They were controlled by the left, and Fallon fell quickly into it. Speaking of which, he's now protesting by not doing appearances in honor of Kimmel. Good. Fire his butt. Say goodbye.
What, he's not doing the show?
No, he's doing some appearance. I read last night. I got to follow up on it, but he's saying, I'm not going to go out and do this. Well, okay. But this guy has got a drinking problem and other ghost in his closet anyway. Why not just let him just go before he becomes a problem again?
If you want to be on the wrong side of the issue, Jimmy, you go stand side by side with Kimmel. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead. You want to see what happens.
You know what? Maybe they can get their own website. I mean, they could get a name,
There's a meme. Have you seen it? It's funny. It shows, and I'm not going to mention the name of the fast food company, but there's a meme of the three nighttime hosts, Colbert, Fallon, and Kimmel, standing side by side in
you want fries with that?
Exactly.
Yeah. I've seen the meme, but yeah, you know what? You could take their initials, and that could be their website, .stupid, and then they ought to do an STU dot, because those guys would fit right into it and take their whole crowd with them. They might have between them 10 downloads.
Even the leftist podcast. Mark Ruffalo. I think you know who he is, right? He's an actor, and he's a heck of a good actor. He's a big time lib. And I didn't care for his politics, but he had a podcast, and he was talking with Rainn Wilson, who used to be on The Office, and he's another leftist too. But they were talking about the shooting of Charlie Kirk, and they sounded almost rational. Listen.
The country is being torn apart in so many different ways. While I didn't agree with his ideas, shooting someone that we disagree with, even if they're vociferous and loud and out there, is so colossally wrong-headed. I spoke to a couple of, let's say, some liberal friends last night at an event, and they were like, you won't find me shedding any tears. And someone else was like, oh, well, it was a little bit of a kind of a good riddance thing. And it's like, guys, no.
Yeah, I know.
No.
I know.
We cannot think or talk that way.
Not at all.
That is not
It's
okay.
so dangerous, man.
That was Mark Ruffalo talking at So Dangerous, Man. And I was actually kind of impressed. Give him more credit. They have a different opinion on politics than I do, but they're a little bit more rational, a little bit less radical than I thought.
In a rational world, you can have political values that are left. You can have political values that are right, and political values that are in the center. The fact is that we can sit down and agree that we disagree and make our points, and maybe I might sit there and see things your way because we sat down and had a valid discussion, or you see things my way, or at least we get an understanding, well, I don't really agree with that, but I can go along with this because it's not way out here in left field or way out there in right field. We hold the line.
Well, that's what Charlie Kirk actually espoused. He was a guy who believed in talking to people who disagreed with him.
Yeah.
And by the way, many times he would talk to somebody and he didn't change their mind. And at the end of the conversation, he would thank them for the conversation and wish them the best and welcome them back, come back again sometime.
Yeah, the fact that we can sit down, let's put it this way. We have been divided as to you're the enemy, I'm the enemy. But it used to be the enemy could sit down together and converse and have a meal, could play a game of tag football out in the park. We'd go out and do things together because we liked each other as human beings. We had a few differences, okay, but nothing to come to fisticuffs over. But somebody decided it's not good enough.
Well, that was I think that was Barack Obama.
Yeah.
I think he was the initial troublemaker.
Now that's and I look at him and I look at the Palestinian divide with what's going on, and I look at there was a Muslim mayor that kicked a conservative Christian off of city council.
I saw that.
And I'm sitting there going, we have got a holy war going on, and I'm not putting down the Muslim faith, but by God, don't sit there and take your beliefs and values and sit there and put yourself so high on a pedestal that you're coming into our country, a country that was founded, Judeo-Christian. Yes, we offer everything here, but that doesn't mean one is superior over the other or one religion rule. And that's what I'm seeing here is that there's that faction too going on, and that's not a good thing.
Obama was. I haven't got the audio, and we're running out of time. But he did a public get together, and he was interviewed about, and he actually started to brag about how his administration was much more open and free speech, and it was all that Trump isn't. He was knocking Trump, and I thought, You lying sack of Jawea. What a waste of space. You know, one of the first things he said the night before the first election was, we're on the verge of fundamentally changing our country as we know it. He told, and the crowd cheered, but he was yelling to the crowd, we're about to change everything here, and the old way is going to be history. And you know, ever since that guy was in office, ever since he was president, things have changed. It is a more divided country. It hasn't come back. And they try to blame that on Trump. No, that was before Trump. You know, there was a divide when Bush was president. I mean, this guy, this Obama prided himself in tearing our country apart. That's why what was it, Davis? One of his, there was a, I forgot his Davis. What was his? Right. He had a mentor, and I can't think of the guy's full name, and I'll think of it later on when we're not recording, because that's how it works when Frank Marshall Davis. Anyway, the guy's a communist, a socialist, a devout socialist, and he was Obama's mentor when he was in college, and this guy taught him about division and separation and things like that, and how to make the country volatile and how to keep it volatile. And you know what? It has been volatile since the guy's been in office.
If it's volatile, you can come in and control. And that's what they want. It's about control and power. So you have to divide to get that volatility going. And then you've got to manage the volatility and control. And that's what it's all about. We're not a free people like we think we are, like we once perhaps were.
It was
where we're going is a bad place.
I think Frank Marshall Davis, I think is who it was, and I think he was a mentor to, if I'm right, he was the mentor for Barack Obama, and he really helped to shape him when he was a student into the person that he is. We still don't have all of the facts about Obama.
And there you go, academia again.
Absolutely. He was one of the 94% who were thinking like he did. 94% of the college professors in a poll recently said they were leftist. Okay, those are the people teaching your kids, and you're paying them for it.
Yeah.
Anyway,
so,
Bill.
Chew on that for a little while.
Yeah, I'm done. I haven't got anything else. Now, tomorrow, we're not sure whether we'll be doing the show. I think we are, but
it'll be well, for us, it'll be earlier in the day that we do it. It'll probably be a short version. It is a weekend update, so, we take the governors off anyway.
Yeah, exactly. And the other thing is this. They're going to have the funeral for Charlie Kirk on Sunday at the stadium in Arizona, which I think is amazing. But there'll be protesters there. I guarantee you. They're going to be people, troublemakers, agitators. That's what they do. They go to a decent event where people should be respectable, and they try to cause turmoil. So don't be surprised if there's some kind of trouble going on out there. We'll have a lot to talk about over the course of the next few days, I think. And with that, my friend, I'm done. If you want to take us out, be my guest.
All right. Until we meet again, like tomorrow, hasta la vista, baby. We're out of here.
Who are we? And why are we here? Will we be welcome or possibly feared? Do we unite and stand tall as a nation of one, or split and divide, or be mocked and shunned? Are our leaders patriotic, honest and true? Do they share our beliefs? Are they red, white, and blue? The truth is out there, you just have to search. Settle for less Side with Right Side Coffee.
Available at rightsideshop.com. All music the property of Jim and Bill. All rights reserved. This is CRN America.